States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And will you please take roll call?
Kevin.
Here.
Jason is not here. Jamie.
Present.
Donna. Here. Clark.
Here.
And
Okay, moving on to announcements. The next regular school board meeting will be on Monday, May 9th at 7 p.m. here in the Lincoln Meeting Room. Is there any acknowledgements this evening? Okay, moving on to public input relating to the agenda. If you have any public input relating to agenda, please let us know the agenda item. Okay, Mr. Swift, would you like to step up and then pull the switch on the microphone up to the top? If you could just identify yourself a little bit.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm Dave Swift, parent of 2 kids in the high school currently. One graduated last year, a third graduated last year. I've had the privilege of working with the robotics team the last couple of years. And in doing so, got to meet a lot of the young participants in that program, and the PLTW program, in my view, has shown great promise. And seeing the transition of these kids just through that one small slice, I think it provides great value. And of course, I'm a big STEM proponent anyway, so I would just throw my support into your decision as you're considering more PLTW expansion. All right? Thanks.
here.
Thank you. Mr. Pika.
I'm Scott Pika. This year I teach technology and math interventions at Lakeside Elementary. You want me to state, it's on letter E for Project Lead the Way. First, I just want to thank you for even considering adding what they call launch teachers down in the elementary for Project Lead the Way. As I'm sure most of you know, STEM has become a very hot topic. A lot of schools say they do it, or say they have a STEM program, but it's nothing near what we were looking at possibly doing. Into the classroom, every single student, the struggling student, the high achieving student, everybody would get it right in their classroom. It's not like some schools, like even Hutch, they just pull them out for 20 minutes, a couple times a week, they call it STEM. We would do it every day in the class, and it would be wonderful. I don't know if you got a chance to look at Mr. Sanju's video that he sent to a lot of us that kind of gave an overview of Project Lead the Way. I think you saw the engagement of the students. And at the end, if you noticed, the corporations that are backing this program, I mean, 3M's a huge one, and then just the universities. I mean, basically anywhere in the Midwest is all in on this program. And I just think, you know, if we have this chance to put it into our elementary, think of the experiences, our incoming kindergartners, even our first, second grade, all the way through elementary, leading in then to the gateway that's already in the junior high school. I can't imagine what kind of experiences the kids would be able to have with this program, and I think it would be wonderful. And just one last thing with this program is, usually when we get a new curriculum, the representative comes out for maybe a half day, says how wonderful the program is, here's your new workbook, textbook, whatever. But with this program, you have a staff member that is trained and is basically the curriculum person for this program. The teachers have somebody to go to. A lot of times, I mean, there's questions. And when you have outside, it's hard to get a hold of them. We have somebody inside. Everybody we've talked to with this program, the professors at St. Cloud State, the people down in Rochester that are really big into this, they're all like, you know what, email me, call me, whenever, any questions you have. And I think with any program we ever look at, I think that is a huge factor too. We're gonna have support for us because it's a huge initiative. It's gonna be a struggle, but it would be wonderful for our kids. So again, thank you for even your consideration of it, and I just look forward to what hopefully our students at GSL can have in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public input relating to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to reports and presentations. Do we have any reports and presentations this evening? Okay, moving on. Okay, we're going to move on to administrative reports. Ms. Sandra, would you like to get started with the business manager report?
Yeah, I don't have anything too much tonight. Most of my items of discussion are part of the agenda, so I'll address them at that time. Been working busy, lots of meetings with the building project. We had the groundbreaking tonight, so we've had more meetings with that. We've had more bids that have gone out. So just lots and lots of meetings, everything pertaining to the building project. And when I'm not working on that, we're working on budgets. The revised budget is on tonight's meeting, and now we're working into next year's budget. I've given all the administration deadline of the 15th to get their preliminary numbers to me, and then I'll sit down and meet with all of them, and we'll go through operating capital expenditures, all those type of requests they've gotten from staff, and decide what direction we can take and what we can afford to move forward with and what we can't afford to do. So that's what I've got for tonight. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Mr. Butler and Mrs. Freitag.
Thank you, and good evening, everybody. Our report is brief as well. I'll start toward the top third there. In April, our focus is spotlight on self-control, and our pro team will be working on April 13th after school to come up with the theme and some details surrounding that theme for the next school year. Toward the bottom, I do have an enclosure from MDE on the Every Student Succeeds Act. Thought you might be interested on what the implications for Minnesota might be. Next year will be a transition year with full implementation of those details for 17-18. Right now, I don't see any major changes on the district level, but that remains to be seen as MDE works this out. Targeted services, summer school, and the migrant summer education program will be June 6th through 7/14 at Helen Baker. We're recruiting Minnesota Reading Corps for Helen Baker, and we have early childhood screening this Friday, April 15th. One other item on that front page, April 27th, we'll have NDE on site in all of our buildings as one of the final pieces in special education due process monitoring. Community connections on the back. We had kindergarten roundup, of course, on March 17th. We're looking just shy of 80 students enrolled right now, so I'm very pleased with that number. We're seeking parent input for student placement. And on May 4th, oh, nobody, okay. So Michelle's telling me you don't have the back. Then on May 4th, our second graders will go up to Lakeside and have lunch with Mrs. Freitag and some of Lakeside staff. Any questions on that? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'll go back to the front, or the one page that you do have. School improvement and site leadership teams have been meeting monthly. We have our instructional team that is going to be meeting for literacy this coming week on Thursday. And then last week we met with our math committee, plan the day that we're working over the summer to get everything in order for the coming school year. And then we also have our literacy team will do the same in May as well at the end of the year. And then if you go down a little bit further to curriculum and assessment update, the literacy team is kind of the same thing, I guess. But math workshop is what we continue to use. And next year, every teacher will be implementing that math workshop. This year, they had the opportunity to do it for 3 out of the 5 days during the week. Next year, every teacher will be doing it throughout every lesson. It's the same philosophy that we have in our literacy curriculum, which the teachers are enjoying and the students are certainly learning from. NCAs continue. We started a couple weeks ago in mid-March, and they're continuing with a week off at Lakeside right now for students to make up any work that they have. I want to thank Mr. Svoboda and Mr. Pika, who is here as well, but we had a much smoother NCA testing session at Lakeside this year so far. I better knock on wood. that it doesn't go south quickly, but it's been going really well. Any questions?
Okay, moving on to Mr. Sparby and Mr. Tavola.
Good evening. A few things you can see in the report. I won't go through all of the things there, but a few things I do want to highlight. We had our blood drive today. Our goal was 72 units. If you recall, our December drive, we had, it didn't go very smoothly. Today's drive went very smoothly. And in the December one, the issues we had were not on our end. It was with Red Cross and some of their staffing that was not adequate to keep up with all the appointments the kids had scheduled. Today our goal was 72 units and we met our goal. So the kids were fired up and the kids worked really hard in organizing that and did a great job in putting the drive together. Next Tuesday, the 19th, we have our ACT testing date. We'll once again go to the city center like we did last year. If you recall from previous meetings, this year the testing is optional. It's not a requirement, but we have to offer it. And I think we have 111 juniors that opted to take the test, which I thought going in, we maybe have 50 kids that would want to do the ACT test. And we have 111 of them that opted to take the test, which is great. We'll have that testing date next Tuesday. We have our spring play coming up, April 28th through May 1st. Hopefully you're able to get out to one of our performances. April 28th, 29th, and 30th are evening performances. Sunday, May 1st is a matinee performance. It's a 2 o'clock performance. Also, I'd like to point out the Panther Prowl Visual Arts Festival. We'll have that on May 12th, set up in our gymnasium in our commons area at the high school. One thing with the upcoming summer, I wanted to touch on again is we will have a junior high summer school program that will run 2 weeks in June and 2 weeks in July for 7th and 8th grade students. The students in 8th grade that are completing 8th grade going into 9th, if they complete a certain number of hours of summer school, can obtain some credit with that going into 9th grade, which goes towards graduation. We'll also have a high school credit recovery program that we will run again. This will be the second year that we've run that. Last year worked really well. I think last year we had 34 students that accumulated or earned credits from that program, so it worked really well for those kids. We'll do that again. We'll run one session in June, which basically runs, I think it's June 6th that it starts, and then runs through June 30th. We run that on Mondays through Thursdays from 9 to noon, and then we'll run another session in July, which starts July 11th. We run that as a targeted services program through the Waconia ALC. So we get the number of students registered with, which we will be able to do. We can run that program free of charge to us. So our goal once again will be to have those students, and last year we had more than enough kids to run the program, and I expect we'll be in that same position this year. The special acknowledgements, I won't go through all of them, but because there's a ton. But I did want to give a quick update of what all of our activities are doing right now between our Knowledge Bowl, which is going to compete in another state tournament. They'll be going this week, tomorrow night, Tuesday night they leave for Brainerd. So best of luck to them in their state competition. Speech team had their section meet last week. There's an FFA update there. And then you can see all of our band and choir things and how they did in large group contests, concert band and concert choir and essay singer, symphonic band, and how they scored. A few things I would like to point out or highlight there. From the band side of it, Jack Gibson received the Best in Sight award. When they go to their competitions, Superior is the highest rating they can get, and then it goes to an excellent. Jack received a perfect score of a 40 and was Best in Sight. On the choir side of that, we had Rachel Bonderman and Brooke Nolder, who both received the Best in Sight award and excellent ratings, superior ratings. And then we had Marissa Kirchhoff and Jake Fehrenbach for a duet, and Elise Peterson and Brooke Nolder, who both received perfect scores and Best in Sight awards. So that's great compliment to those kids and all of their hard work, and to Mr. Gibson and Mrs. Wilson. Like I said, there's a lot more there, but I'll leave the rest for your reading pleasure. Any questions you had for me?
Okay, moving on to the superintendent report.
Thank you and good evening. Just a few things on my list here. We've spent a lot of time, as Michelle mentioned, about going through the building project and getting the logistics all put together. We were all set to go for a pathway going from here to the high school that was on the south end, and we learned that it will happen next Monday. So we get to use this pathway that cuts across here for another week, but then after that, the site will be secured. And we've been educating the parents and educating the kids on that, and it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But we do understand that it will be happening on Monday of next week. Obviously, things are coming up very quickly. May 19th, we have our last community schools event. So if you guys can put that date on your calendar, that would be great. Our knowledgeable kids will be there to show us a little bit about what they do. May 20th is the last day of school along with graduation, so school board members, not too early to put that on your calendar. Last week, and then just another couple things. Last week I got a chance to go to the Capitol with a group of superintendents that went down to basically lobby and meet with legislators and talk a little bit about funding. And it's just really quite an interesting process when you go down there about all the different dynamics and the groups and those types of things. And you actually went away feeling, kind of where are we going to be able to head with a $900 million surplus. And it doesn't feel like it was an exciting time. So it's one of those things that we're thankful that we have groups that head down there. We're thankful that we have some of our membership groups that are fighting for education, and hopefully we'll be able to have some increases in those types of things. And that it's a very, very fast session, lots of bills that are being implemented. When we get updates, it's almost interesting because the next day all of a sudden that'll change a little bit. So stay tuned and where that all comes into play, because it's going to be ending up here very, very quickly. Just a couple of other things that we're working on with the chamber. The chamber is having a Cinco de Mayo event on May 5th that we hope that the school will be a part of, along with the Glencoe Parade coming up here in June. And then also, you guys have talked in the past a little bit about my student leadership group with the county, and we're having our Student Leadership Day coming up on April 28th, where we have about 50 students from all across the county that's going to be getting together to look on different leadership activities and different things that we can do. We just recently had a skate drive, and we ended up getting about a dozen skates from McLeod County. So that's happening. Tomorrow also I have my Beyond the Yellow Ribbon meeting that we're having, and our student leadership group is working with the Beyond the Yellow Ribbon campaign through McLeod County to increase their resource list. So that's one of the things that we're doing with some of those types of kids. So any questions? Thank you.
Okay, is there any board committee reports? Okay, hearing none, so we have a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Jamie, here a second. Second by Kevin to approve the agenda. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So moving on to approving the consent agenda, please note that there is two additions that are addendums to the consent agenda regarding Sharon Gutnick's retirement, and then also resignation here of Catherine Miller. We have motion. Motion by Kevin, seconded by Ann, to approve the consent agenda with the noted addendums. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. There's no old business this time, so move on to new business, which is item A. Soccer Cooperative with Hutchinson. Activities Director Schwartz is here to provide information about a soccer cooperative with the Hutchinson School District. Would you guys like that information first, or do you want to make a motion? Information first. So if Mr. Schwartz could come up to the microphone.
You guys have the information on that,
I don't believe so.
And just note, this is boys soccer.
This is the boys soccer program, yes. If you can read through it, if you have any questions on it, pretty much self-explanatory as far as the way it's laid out. The main purpose behind this is to give our kids the opportunity to play at their appropriate levels. This fall, we had 7th through 12th graders playing at a JV schedule. We had a strong number of seniors this year. Past year, we had 8 of them on our team, and they were playing with 7th graders, and it just became pretty much a dangerous situation as far as practice. Mr. Beck did a nice job as far as separating them and making it as safe one as we can as far as that goes, but when you have 7th graders and 12th graders playing soccer, it becomes pretty physical and kind of a scary situation. So what we want to do is give them the opportunity with co-oping with Hutch to play where they should be playing. We have a couple kids that deserve to be playing at the varsity level and continuing their season on to the playoffs, and some of our unskilled players deserve that the opportunity to play against people of their same ability. So what I've done is, with Mr. Saunders' permission, we met with the Hutch AD, Mr. Johnson, and we laid out a plan and tried to give these kids the opportunity to do so.
Was the Hutch program, were they kind of leaning towards having low numbers as well? I mean, that's a benefit for them as well, I take it?
It's a benefit for both programs. The only negative, there's some couple of negatives. We would not have as many home games as we typically would, but right now we're struggling to find home games because with scheduling right now, when you schedule a game, they want a varsity and a JV game at the same time. With us only having a JV, we had 3 teams already say we're not going to play you as far as the conference, and we would have to reschedule those dates on opposite dates. Well, those are basically Saturdays and Mondays, and it becomes very difficult with our schedule on Mondays with what we have on our field already. So
If we would have stayed by ourselves.
if you would have stayed by ourselves, with going with Hutch, they are struggling number-wise, and this would help them out as far as giving them the appropriate people at each level.
And then that schedule is basically set.
Yes, we would be able to have a varsity and JV at this time, and hopefully a middle school team by going together. Practice times, we would hope to work together to make them during the same time, that when we send a bus over, the same bus would bring all of our varsity through 7th and come back at the same time. And we would require the kids to ride that bus if at all possible.
And I can just add a couple things on the financial side. I had sat down with Mr. Schwartz before he had his meeting, and we went through a lot of bullet points of things that I wanted him to discuss and address with the Hutch AD. And we really set it up the same way as we currently have our 2 cooperatives right now. We've got our wrestling cooperative with Lester Prairie, and our gymnastics cooperative with Buffalo Lake Hector Stewart. So we'd set that up the same way as far as chargeback and figuring out cost per player, and that's how it's charged back, with the exception that our transportation costs for practice is our expense, but everything else goes into the pool. Each district keeps their own activity fees that they collect, so we don't change our activity fee to match what Hutch is, or they don't match ours. The kids continue to pay our fee. We collect that money, we keep it. Also for games that are held here, we would keep that revenue, Hutch would keep theirs, but they currently don't charge for theirs, so we work that out. But so we've got everything worked out as similar as we can to our other cooperatives that we do, set them up the same way.
And the numbers that I came up with here, I spoke with the community ed, we have 3 boys coming in at 7th grade that we're hoping to continue to play soccer. That's where that number comes from, without knowing in advance. We just saw what we have in the community ed program. And with these numbers right now, my plan, because we did not have JV, if we were to have our own program right now, we probably would not be able to play the JV. We'd have to play some C game schedules, and then our upperclassmen would not be able to play in those. We'd have to play our 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and then our sophomores, juniors, and seniors that we do have would not be able to play. So that's why another reason why we look towards this a lot.
Is this cooperative a year at a time as far as the agreement made with Hutchinson if it's approved? It would be a year-on-year basis, year-to-year basis?
We'd have to reevaluate it after the first year and see where we're at, based on our numbers and your guys' approval.
Is the gymnastics and the wrestling cooperative, are they 1 year at a time too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, every co-op is set up in that way. There is paperwork that I would have to have you fill out after this, and with the correct numbers, after I meet with my students of what we have out, and then we would share that with the Hutchinson School District.
How's the girls program? I know that this is just the boys program that we're talking about here. What do the girls' numbers look like for GSL, and what do the girl numbers look like for Hutchinson program as far as the girls' end of the soccer program?
I can only speak about our girls because I didn't research theirs, but on our side, our girls' numbers are strong. We're actually looking to add a middle school level because then we have that high of numbers. We think that we have 10 girls coming in the 7th grade, which gives us enough with the 7th and 8th for one program, the 9th and 10th for JV, and then our varsity. Our numbers are very strong, so our field will be used back there, even if we're going over there for practice. We'll have use of all of them.
And I think the community education numbers are pretty high for 4th through 6th grade. I believe they have 36, 37, 38, 4th through 6th grade girls are also. So those numbers are still matching kind of that 10 range that you would be citing in that 7th grade.
The only downfall of that is sometimes we lose 1 or 2 of those that end up going to cross country or they try something new at that time. But they are, like you said, at 10 or 12 range.
Have the parents been communicated with regard to the increase for the transportation component?
They have not. What I did last year is I had a meeting after the last game and I spoke to the team and I asked them if they would like to go to a varsity because I wanted to give them a full schedule. And because we had one senior on the team and he did not feel that it was right to have those underclassmen have to play at that high level, he asked if we could stay at a JV, which I thought was pretty humble of him to say that he wanted to stay there. So we elected to stay at the JV level. As far as the transportation, none of that has been shared because I wanted to have your guys' approval before I go to that point. I have spoken to some of the kids already as far as just letting them know because it has been brought up by them. And they already play in club soccer there in the summer. So they're actually really excited about the opportunity to play with those kids because they have some connections with them already.
Are those transportation fees something that can also be worked into the assistance that we give families if they don't have money for activities fees? Or is that something that they'll have to pay in it out of their pocket, even if they're considered low income and are eligible for assistance?
I'm not really sure on that, Michelle. Would we be able to?
You could do.
So we still want to give everybody the opportunity to play as our biggest goal, but if we continue at this rate, we're going to have no program and they're going to have nowhere to play. It's just continually to dwindle for us. We have that group of 8th graders that has 7 players, and that's a strong group of those players right there. But without them, we would really be struggling right now.
On the transportation, we really talked about safety, getting kids there, and we just felt this was the best way, rather than tell them, hey, you gotta be in touch at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. By having them all have to go on the bus together, it's the safest way to get those kids over.
It's my understanding in the past, when we had the co-op with Sibley East, when there was a bus, they were able to come, but as soon as that cost got too high and they put those costs on the students, they lost that bus and then our numbers completely dwindled.
Okay, any other questions? Thanks for coming this evening. Do we have a motion?
Also,
Motion by Kevin, need a second?
Second.
Second by Ann to approve the soccer cooperative with Hutchinson School District. Any further discussion? The motion has been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, item B, close-up request for 2016 through 2017. Close-up coordinator Paul Lemke asks for approval of the 2016 to 2017 close-up trip to Washington, D.C. The trip date will be March 12 through 17, 2017. The participants in the program will cover all costs through private funds, fundraisers, or donations. Superintendent Sanju recommends approval of the trip. We have motion. Motion by Ann, need a second. Seconded by Donna to approve the close-up trip to Washington, D.C. during the 2016-2017 school year. The date for the trip will be March 12th through 17, 2017. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item C, approval of bid package number 1, scope 5.A. At the March 31st board meeting, bids for bid package number 1, which consist of the earthwork, precast walls, and some concrete, were awarded. Josh Lester from Donlar Construction recommended putting the bids for work scope 5.A, which included erection of structural steel package, gymnasium, on hold until further review could be completed. The bids have been verified, and it is the recommendation of Mr. Lester to approve the bid of J&H Erectors Incorporated in the amount of $42,300. We have motion.
I'll move. So moved.
Motion by Kevin. Do we have a second? Seconded by Jamie to approve the low bid of J&H Erectors Incorporated for bid package number 1, work scope 5.A for $42,300. Discussion.
If you remember from the work session, they wanted just a little bit more time to verify that that contractor and the dollar amount that he had to make sure they had everything included like it was supposed to be according to the specs. So they've done that, and they're very comfortable with that bid, and the contractor has guaranteed his numbers. So we were going to wait until after we approved scope 5A, after we got the rebids in, but we decided as long as they had verified this contractor and the dollars, we may as well just as well get the contract, or get it approved so they can get that contract issued. Because the sooner you can issue those contracts, you guarantee you lock that contractor in. So that's why we're going with it tonight. So they were comfortable with that number, so we can move ahead on scope 5A.
Okay, we have a motion and it's been seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item D, 2015-2016 budget revisions. Business Manager Sander has reviewed the current 2015-2016 budget with the Board Finance Committee consisting of Directors Keister and Allslaven, and would like to recommend the following changes for approval. In the general fund, the revenue was initially $16,883,000. No, I'm sorry, that's a revised number, right? Okay. So that's a revised number. Expenditures revised $17,258,896. Be all right if I don't root through each individual number? Okay. Kind of the big package on the general fund is we have revisions on revenues and expenditures. So Michelle, if you could comment a little bit more on those at this time,
Yeah,
is that all right?
I will do
Somebody
that.
can make a motion?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I did put it up on the PowerPoint because I knew you all had gotten the information in the handout. I've been meeting with Kevin and Jamie throughout the year at our finance meetings, and there's no surprises in the budget. It's all things that I've talked about with them, brought to you. It's been kind of a nice status quo year as far as budget. We haven't had a lot of big up and downs or big surprises. The biggest change in the general fund is on the expenditure side, and that is related to salaries and benefits. If you remember from the original budget, I had in about a 2.5% figure for our salaries and benefits, and we ended up with almost all of our contracts ending up at a 3% increase. So that naturally increased the expenditure side of things. The revenues, it's up a little bit. Different areas are up, some areas were down. Majority of that was related to special ed revenue increase coming from the State Department. In the food service fund, revenues were up about $37,000, expenditures were down about $12,000, and that's just kind of adjusting numbers after the school year starts and they have a chance to look at enrollment numbers and staffing cost, all those type of things. The Fund 4 Community Service Fund revenues are up about $21,000. mainly all due to state aid adjustments, and expenditures were only up about $1,300. In Funds 6 and 7, that has to do with the building construction and the debt service fund. When we approved the original budget back in June, we hadn't sold our bonds yet. We had estimates, but now that the bonds were sold, we've got those actual numbers in there. We've got a good handle on what the interest is, so those adjustments are just reflective of the selling of the bonds and the debt service, the first payment that came out for interest payment on that bond. So not a lot of big changes, so just need your approval, so it's reflected in the minutes for the audit and on our financial statements. As far as, the general fund, it's been a nice winter, so our utilities are down and snow removal is down. So those are looking really good. Our custodial maintenance is right about at budget. And we've had a few other things we've adjusted for, one of those being a vehicle purchase. We've put those numbers in the budget. It might not happen in this fiscal year yet, but we have other things that we can use that money for. We'll just move that into the next fiscal year. So in our finance meeting, we also looked ahead at the next 2 years in our budget projections and had some good discussion on that. And as I said earlier, we're meeting with the administration now and working and refining next year's budget and what that looks like. So we've got some good budget projections going forward as well. And just on a side note, I know you get updates on our enrollment, and I just wanted to let you know from where we ended last year. When we looked at our final number for last year's enrollment, we were at 1,564 students, and we're currently at 1,580. So we're up about 18 students. When we start the school year, we always start higher, and then you hope that's going to continue, but we know it always drops after we get through November and kind of those months. But good news is, compared to where we ended last year, we are currently about 18 students higher than that. So that's encouraging for us. And then we get some money for those kids that were here, portions of the year. So that will change that final number. But we should stay pretty steady now for the next 6 weeks till we hit the end of the school year. So questions on the budget revisions or something I missed? Jamie or Kevin, you can jump in.
We have faith in you.
All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Jamie, need a second. Second by Donna to approve the 2015-2016 budget revisions as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item E, staffing for Project Lead the Way, programming, discussion only. Principals Butler and Freitag request approval to hire two 1.0 FTE lead elementary STEM teachers beginning with the 2016-2017 school year. Responsibilities of these teachers will be to provide support for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, otherwise known as STEM instruction, in Project Lead the Way programming at both elementary sites. Okay, we'll start discussion at this time. Oh, Donna, you missed the work session. Have you been able to get some of the information here in the past couple of weeks?
I read through
Yeah.
and stuff.
All right, because we did, for those of you who know, we had a board work session March 31. Okay. Yeah, there we were. Donna had a good excuse. We did spend some time discussing those things along with Mr. Sundblad, Mr. Pika, our principals. We're there and administration were there. But we wanted to have this as another opportunity here to have a discussion prior to having it be an action item.
Any more information that you guys need? Let us know.
Will the two FTEs that you're proposing, will they work one-on-one with students? And if they do, how often during the day, or will they do that, or will they be just training teachers, or?
I would answer that with yes. Oh, you can let Joy answer if she wants.
Yes. Yes, they will be working directly with students. We do have a mock schedule that I believe we gave you at the last work session. The person would be pushing in with the classroom teacher, and then they would be learning from each other as resources. The person who would be considered the lead teacher for the building for Lakeside and for Helen Baker would lead the class with the support of the classroom teacher. So in essence, they would be co-teachers in the project. They would be working directly with students, yes.
We have plenty of technology available, I mean, or will we have to?
We're working on that as we speak. There will be, there's gonna need to be some technology upgrades a little bit with some of that stuff. And we had a meeting at our cabinet meeting this morning talking a little bit specifically what we would need from that aspect. So there's gonna be some of that because of just the nature of the program, especially in the 6th grade level because of the gateway requirements that they're gonna need to have.
The one thing we're doing on the technology, Mr. Sundblad doesn't think his computers are good enough anymore.
Which is every year.
All the time.
That want list again, huh?
And he can probably address this a lot better than I can, but he currently has the Mac computers, the Mac lab at the high school that he does his engineering program on. It requires real intense software to run those, the programs that he needs for his engineering class. And a lot of that is dictated by the specifications that come from the University of Minnesota and the requirements that he needs to run the CAD programs in his classes. So we knew this was coming in, so part of our budget is to replace his lab. We'll replace that this year, and then those computers will move into the new STEM room at the high school when that remodeling is done. But those computers that he's been using still have a purpose. We're going to shift those down to the junior high building, so they will be used by the 7th and 8th graders in that Mac lab. The tech guys are able to strip those down, so instead of being Mac computers, they will be a Windows operating system, and they have plenty enough usage in them that they can run the software that's required at the junior high level. Correct? At the 6th grade level, the programs that they run can't be run on the iPads, so they need either, a desktop, and what we're really looking at would best suit what we need to do. We want to go with laptops on a cart so they're mobile, they can go room to room and classroom to classroom. The rest of the K-5 program, all of their programs works on the iPads, so we're fine with that. As part of the technology budget, we're going to be looking at adding another updated cart of iPads at Lakeside, so we can get another cart from Lakeside back down to Helen Baker. So not getting any additional yet at this point until we finish the budget process, but at least being able to get some newer ones up there that run a little bit more software than that we require than at Helen Baker, but then as a way to get another cart of iPads available for Helen Baker, and not just for Project Lead the Way, but for everything that they do at the lower elementary. So that's kind of the technology piece. So the biggest piece right now is the laptop edition at Lakeside. But not only can those be used for Project Lead the Way, also really hoping that those will help us with our testing. We run into a lot of problems with not enough computers when it's testing time because we just don't have enough one-on-ones and enough computer labs at Lakeside, especially because Helen Baker doesn't have the testing requirements as, starting in grades 3. So we run real short. We end up bringing some kids up to the high school to try to get all that testing done. So having a laptop that can go in those classrooms will also assist in the testing. So dual purpose, so it's not just for that. They'll be used for other areas as well. So at this point, we're looking, ideally, 2 carts of laptops would be really nice. I have kind of said the budget that I work on with Jeff and the technology, we'll look at 1 cart, and then I'll work with the building administration from their budgets to see if we can fund the other cart, see what we can do. And it might be we start with 1 cart, but we'll see where it ends up. We've also, Mr. Sundblad has submitted grants for the K-5 programs for both Helen Baker and Lakeside, and some dollars in the grant is allowed for equipment. So we have to see first if we are awarded those grants, and we can go from there and finish the budget.
So we don't have the grants yet? You're still writing them, or?
Correct. No, they've been submitted. I think you thought at the end of April here, for sure? Yeah.
And how long is the grant for? Is it just for 1 year? Is it for 2 years?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And then after that, then we have to completely fund the program.
The grant is really intended, and I don't know if you want to address it, Mr. Sundblad, a little more?
I can address part of that
He can talk about the grant part because he was the phenomenal writer of the grant. However, for the launch program that we have at K-5, the initial cost is by far the most expensive cost that we're going to have to accrue. So this next year is, I mean, that's where it's really going to kind of hit us, I guess, because of the equipment, even at the 6th grade level with buying the 2 laptop carts or the 1 laptop cart. After that, it's going to be filling in kind of the pieces that maybe we're missing, or if there's something new that comes out. But it will never, as far as I know, is not going to be the same amount of money. We're not going to ask for another computer lab next year, like somebody else might.
Mike Sundblad, Industrial Tech and Engineering Instructor. I put together the grant documents for the launch program. It's 2 years, $7,500 each year if we're awarded it. It can be used towards equipment, training. There is a $750 cost each year to be a launch school, and it can be used towards that for the 2 years as well. But as Joyce said, the biggest costs are right away the initial cost to buy equipment and so on. And then once that's been purchased and you're on your way teaching, it's just updating and replacing things as they break and so on. Along with that, we've gotten grants at the high school and the Gateway program in the junior high. We still have one more installment, a $10,000 installment to come to the high school, and a additional $10,000 at Gateway program in the junior high. So there's still some equipment dollars that we can spend in those programs, and that can help to offset what we're doing with Gateway in the 6th grade at Lakeside. Any other questions regarding?
Are there a lot of other schools that are launching these kind of programs, or?
Yes, there are.
Mr. Pika said that we were doing it kind of differently than some of the others. Is there other schools that are doing it as intense as we're going to be doing it?
Yeah, there's quite a number of districts that are K-12 PLTW schools, but their school district don't run like ours. For example, Rochester just has one elementary that is doing Project Lead the Way, and then they're doing a Gateway at one of their junior highs and at the high school. We, if we were doing this, are going to be one of the few districts that is doing it in every building for every student. So that's the difference between us and a lot of the other districts in the state, is we're going to get it to every kid.
The only other question I have is can you try to explain to me a little bit differently? You know, Mr. Pika said we're going to be doing it in every classroom for every kid. What is exactly it? How can I explain this to a parent that comes up to me and asks me, well, let me know about this STEM thing, I don't understand.
Sure.
Can you help me explain it to them?
You've got all of you have a handout for the launch program and the Gateway program, along with the engineering ones that we're already doing as well. With the launch program, there are 4 modules at each grade level. And those are not just a 1 week in and out kind of module. It's a long-term module that you're working with there. And the idea by having a launch lead teacher is that they understand the curriculum. They'll teach it to the classroom teacher. They'll work with the classroom teacher those first 2 years so that they know the curriculum and they can teach it, but they've got a hands-on person in there with them teaching it. It is basically science, engineering, math, technology, English, all embedded into a topic. And so they don't just pull out one science standard and teach that one science standard. They're covering many different standards at the same time that they are covering a module. So that each one of those grade levels has 4 modules. To put that in perspective, at junior high level, Gateway program, their modules are by quarters or by trimesters or by year. And then at the high school, all of those are year-long courses. So the lengths of time of those courses are shorter at the launch level. That make sense? what else can I answer for you?
Well, I guess I just want to know, like, when you say that you're going to incorporate it in every aspect of the classroom, so like in a math class, are you going to incorporate how math helps you build something that you would need for engineering? You know, that you would use for
Yeah.
engineering? Or so
Yeah.
is that what you're going to do with it?
This program is interdisciplinary, so it covers the science standards, math standards, language arts standards. So it covers all those type of things. And even goes into the specialist areas. There's going to be music standards and everything gets incorporated in it. In the elementary level, every module starts with, there's a problem that must be solved. And through the course of every module is 10 hours, and you can break it down however you want. They are doing hands-on experiments. They're using real world, supplies. We're not giving them, fancy things. It could be as simple as a rubber band and a plastic cup to come up with noises. And so they are basically, with STEM, as they're taking, instead of just saying science is separate, math is separate, technology class is separate, they're building in the different standards to all the areas. So it almost becomes, hopefully your day will just flow. So it's not like, all right, we need to stop, we're doing math now. And so you're going to be able to incorporate all those different academic areas in the project that you're working on at the current time. To show the kids, why are we learning this lesson, instead of just saying, here's 10 problems, do it. Here's our problem, how can we take what we learned in math the other day, or how can we take our way of thinking and relay that to the next person, vocabulary, language arts. And so I think what led a lot of people to this program was the other academic areas that it was in. People think of STEM as just science, but it's not. It incorporates lots of those different areas. And obviously the first couple years, that would be the hardest part, to find out, all right, we're doing this math in this module, now we can, maybe move on to something else in our normal math lesson. And so the first couple of years, trying to bridge, the academic areas together would be a struggle. But I think because of this program, you have the lead teacher in each building can help them guide. Like I said, when we brought in, let's say we bring in a new math curriculum. Well, the person that works for the company really has no contact with us. And so it's like, if you have a problem with something, or how could we bridge this area with this area, they're not there. But with this program, we're able to do that. And so, especially in every classroom teacher, we can meet together in PLCs. We do a lot of PLC work at Lakeside. And a lot of it is just kind of molding things together. It's almost a way of thinking.
So in other words, when the kids used to say, why do we have to learn this? I'm never going to use this anyways. The STEM program is going to show them different places in the real world, where you will be.
Yep, that's the goal of it, is to show them how we can take problems and not solve them one way, but solve them in many different ways. Because everybody, there's a lot of creativity that the kids must do, because they have to really come up with some very unique creations and things to solve. And so I think part of it too is it allows every kid to kind of be themselves, instead of looking for that one exact answer from every single kid. It's like 3 kids could come up with something that are all 3 ends of the spectrum, but yet they all solved the problem and they were successful. And so I think that's what obviously the goal of the program would be.
Good, that helps, thanks.
Anything else for me? Thanks.
I don't have a question. I guess one of my concerns, and I'm very much in support of pursuing the STEM concept and the STEM ideas. This is a very expensive delivery model that we're currently looking at, and I guess one of my main concerns is the adding of the 2 FTEs in the lead teacher positions, the creation of those. In looking at the history, the budget history that has been presented to us each year, and when we look back in history, back the years that we were in statutory operating debt, the years that we came out of it up to present day, if we add 2 additional FTEs, that's going to put us at about 113 FTEs. And we haven't been at 113 FTEs since about 2004, 2005 school year. I believe the 5-6 year we were at maybe 121 FTEs. Even when we were at 113 FTEs or 121 FTEs, the enrollment that matched those FTEs was a much higher enrollment than what we currently heard this evening at 1580. So I guess I'm very concerned about adding additional FTEs in comparison to our overall enrollment. And once again, just looking at those overall projections of not only enrollment numbers, but also FTEs, because I think that that's what got the district into trouble once upon a time in statutory operating debt, was the enrollment numbers and the FTE numbers and how those two jived or didn't jive. So I'm really concerned about that. I'm concerned about the 6th grade being gateways. I understand why they would be gateways in conjunction with the 7th and 8th grade. I think that that was presented very, very well. My concern with 6th grade and gateways is that they will be at Lakeside as the lone grade with that part of the curriculum versus the K-5 launch program or component of it. Having been a 6th grade teacher who has been part of a curriculum adoption that was a 6, 7, 8 adoption, but being in an elementary where the 6th grade is part of the elementary and not part of the middle school or junior high, I'm very concerned about that part of the adoption, because the support or lack of support that those 6th grade teachers may have, because the curriculum that they're doing or the components of it that they're doing is different than the rest of their building. So they don't really have anybody there like 7th and 8th grade does. And that gets very, very tricky and very difficult. But I guess I'll stop with that. Like I said, I'm very much in support of pursuing STEM, so I don't want to in any way mislead anybody that I'm not. But I just think that this delivery model and the request of 2 FTEs is something that I think there really needs to be some important discussion about. And I guess at the workshop session, one of the questions that I asked rhetorically, that I'm going to take the rhetorical part off of tonight, is how can we deliver STEM with our current FTE numbers that we have? I guess that would be something that I would like to see us pursue versus adding 2 additional FTEs. I'll stop at this point.
So I can maybe address the 6th grade level. The difference between the launch and the gateway program is the launch teachers don't have individual training in the summer where they go to a university and are specifically trained in the modules they're going to teach. The lead teachers will do that, and a lot of that is online component for them. The 6th grade, however, has direct instruction at a university, either Mankato State or St. Cloud State, where they will have 3 to 5 days of instruction in the curriculum that they're going to be teaching in class. So that's the difference between the two. And then PLTW has a pretty in-depth online component for training beyond what you are trained through the summer. So I'm constantly going to that for myself as I'm teaching concepts. Students get stuck, I can't remember, I go back to that training myself, and then I disseminate that to the students so that we're all on the same page. And that's done for the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade level as well, the gateway. That's what makes the difference between that and launch.
And as a 6th grade teacher too, like you were, Jamie, and I was kind of on my own field when we did International Baccalaureate program, so I completely understand what you're talking about. This program is a little bit different in that those 6th grade teachers are going to be the professional development. So they are not going to a one-day seminar where they come back and then they teach the other 5 teachers or 4 teachers that are on the team, they're going to be the professional development person that is going to be in direct contact with Project Lead the Way, as well as Mr. Sunblad. I mean, he's already been phenomenal in coming up to us and offering support. And I think that the 2 teachers that we've identified who would be interested in teaching the program are so excited about this opportunity that there's nothing that's going to hold them back, and nothing that's going to hold them back, I guess is the best way to say it. They are so excited about this opportunity and to bring it in. And in fact, we had to hold them back a little bit because all 5 of the teachers wanted to do it. And at some point we had to say, nope, I think that we have to start somewhere. But all 5 of them were so intent on the idea of this opportunity that they wanted to do it. As far as implementing it without the 2 lead teachers, one at Helen Baker and one at Lakeside, could we do it? We probably could do it, and we'd probably do a pretty good job at it. But I would like to give our teachers an opportunity to do a phenomenal job at it. And I feel like, having been a teacher in this district, when we implemented the literacy program, we did it halfway, in that I was not given the support that I should have been given as a classroom teacher. And that wasn't at fault of anybody, it was the lack of the professional development that we were given. By employing 2 teachers that are specific in this, that they can give the lessons directly to the students and helping the teachers, we are empowering them to make this program a success. So it's the difference of, yes, we can do a good job at it if we do it. It's going to be a big strain. We can find, Bill and I can be creative, and we can find a way to make it work without adding 2 FTEs. But do we want to do a phenomenal job at it and encourage other people in the neighboring communities to possibly come to our district? That's where we want those people in our building. Because those people aren't going to just be working with the students and with the teachers, but they're also going to be our advocates in the community. And they're going to say, oh my gosh, GSL is so into this program that they have gone out of their way and they have hired 2 people to take this on and to look for the grants, to work with the students. And to be a parent of children in the building, and to have a teacher, 2 teachers. I mean, think of how phenomenal that is in your classroom. If you had 2 teachers who are now teaching your kids how to do this program, and then implementing it, and the inquiry that goes along with it, and then the one teacher is pulling back and then moving into the other classroom to work with that. I mean, it's like super powered PLCs. It's just, I guess I want to be part of that program that says, like, oh my goodness, we're going to give these elementary buildings an FTE at both sites because we believe that this is going to help our students. The students that we have such a high level of free and reduced in this community, this program, I strongly believe, is going to help them. I mean, all of our students, but especially the students who might not get some of this inquiry-based learning at home because their parents are bringing them to the Science Museum on the weekends, or because they're learning some of those things. I feel like this is our opportunity to get that niche that the surrounding communities don't necessarily have.
I'd like to, with what Jamie said, I also support STEM, and every teacher that I've talked to, they support it, they're excited about it. Again, I guess being part of PLTW, Project Lead the Way, is great. I do not know if I want to be part of Project SOD and get us in trouble. I think the program's great. I really do. And I just, if we can do it without adding the 2 or I want to make sure that we're not getting our district in trouble again.
I'm just going to add one comment about the FTEs, and we did talk about this earlier, and I don't have all the data in front of me, but we know we've gone up a little bit, but just off the top of my head, 4 of those FTEs that we've added, 3 were counselors, and 1 we brought music back in. We've added those counselors. We got some additional funding from Stevens Seminary to get the 1, and because that's been such a high need in our district to get some more of that specialist help available for students. So 4 of those FTEs are not, 3 of them are not classroom teachers, but support. Again, not that they're still FTEs. We count them as FTEs, but they're not classroom FTEs. So And that's just kind of off the top of my head of what we've added since back in the SOD, when a lot of those things were eliminated. But, when I started, there was one counselor K-12, so that's been a really, really positive addition for us in those FTEs, and a smart way to use some of those dollars, and bringing back the music, the additional music.
So I think it would be helpful for all board members just to see that graph in terms of student enrollment based upon FTE. Yeah, but if people can refresh on that. Because there's a big difference when Jamie cites 113 compared to 121. I mean, and this is where you can quickly see the multiplier year after year after year. Roughly if each FTE is worth $50,000, and we're at 113 now, we were at 121. Okay, 8 times $50,000 is $400,000 a year. And these are the decisions that, right, wrong, or indifferent, they weren't the right decision from the years 1999 until 2004. Okay, so in 5 years, you're $2 million going like this rather quick. We certainly have control, and I certainly think those are very valid questions to say, is this a good decision to add an additional 2 FTE? The other thing that I think we need to look at is allowing our staff and allowing our administration to say, education has changed, it's different now than it was in 2004. We certainly have some needs that maybe this traditional model that we have in place, those FTEs may be used in different areas. And is there a magic number of 115 or 113? I don't know. I know that we've added some additional FTEs here in the past few years, which I think were well deserved, and I think that were justified at this time of year when we had some of these discussions. Some of them have driven by enrollment, where we decided to go to a 6-section kindergarten, okay, for a year or two. I think we also look at 2 of those sections right now have 105 students, 106 students. Those are decisions that we as a board need to make on FTE. Mr. Schwartz will remember when he was one of, I think we had 3 5th grade teachers at that time, and he had 33, 34, 35 kids. That was a rocky year. I mean, it's probably the most complaints I've ever gotten as a board member. Ann was on the board back then. I don't want to go through that again. Why did we do it? Not because Dean wanted it. We had to get out of statutory operating debt, and none of us want to go down that road again. At the same time, having 19 students in a 5th grade class, is that necessary? I mean, we do well with having 25, 26, students in a 5th grade class or 6th grade class, and those are things that as a board and as administration we need to look at, because just doing the same thing all the time when we have a class that has a little bit lower enrollment, maybe doing 5 sections all the way up isn't the right thing to do. And if you make that decision times 5 years, well, there's your FTE that perhaps is better utilized in STEM, or perhaps is better utilized in another area, or you don't utilize it at all. You save that $50,000 a year. But I think starting that discussion 2 weeks ago gets us to the point where we have more discussion tonight, and ultimately may be able to make a decision in a month. But I would like the administration to give us some options here as to, if this was to be done, what are some of those areas that keep us, from going down the road of having financial challenges 3 years from now, 4 years from now.
I'll just say that, when we went through this whole process, nobody wants to go back to SOD, and your concerns are very valid. But when we went through this process to implement these, we wouldn't be bringing it forward if we couldn't afford it.
I think it's true that we can afford it. I think it's true that we can afford it. I think one of the concerns that we're trying to bring forward is the sustainability, making sure that we can afford it, not just short term, but long term. And I guess that's where my concern is coming from, is, there's the upfront costs and so forth, and we talked about the costs of the equipment and so on. And some of those are maybe one-time expenditures, or at least expenditures until it wears out or something new comes along, or somebody wants another lab or whatever. But a salary is something that doesn't go away unless you cut an individual once that individual's been added. And so that's, I think, our concern is just the sustainability of adding any additional FTEs. On page 10 of the budget book, that 2004-2005 year, when we were at about 113 FTEs, like I said, that following year, 04-05, it was up to 121. That 121 FTEs did not maintain. That 121 FTEs the following years went down because they couldn't sustain 121. Now, I know that we're not talking 121 right now. We're talking an additional 2 FTEs, which would be 113 FTEs. But we also have to make sure that we've got an enrollment that can sustain that, because once again, we don't want to be detrimental in adding something great or adding something haphazard or halfway done well. We want to do it well, and we want to be able to sustain it. So that's, I think, where I'm definitely coming from, is the sustainability of whatever we do moving forward.
And that would be the goal.
Absolutely. Could I, Mr. Sundblad or Mr. Pika, either one of you guys, the modules that you're talking about, I would assume that as technology moves on, you're going to have to change these modules, right? I mean,
well, at the elementary level, I mean, this is, the program was really implemented about 2014 for the elementary portion of it. It's been around the junior high school much longer than that.
High school program's almost 20 years now.
And so right now they're looking at, just 4 modules. Obviously, the technology that's needed for the program increases as they get older. The K2 is probably not as much, but I know, once they get to 3rd, 4th, 5th, there might be some robotics and stuff. But in our discussions with the other schools that have done this, I think with the technology we have with our iPads, because it needs the iPads to run. We couldn't go, to a Surface, or we couldn't go to a tablet. Other districts have tried it and failed miserably because the program doesn't run. But I think we have, at least the infrastructure of the technology at the beginning that would be more than well able to handle it. So I think in that portion, and most people talk to us and say, well, the technology, if you have that, you can implement the program right away because it's such a huge expense right away. So I think, the initiative of getting the iPads into the classrooms for so many years has actually hopefully led us to this position where it is much easier to implement it because we have the technology base that can handle what the modules are asking the kids to do.
And any program is going to be needed to update at some point.
Software and everything.
Software, yeah, and that's the main reason why my computer lab needs to be upgraded, because the current version of Inventor, Autodesk Inventor, which is used heavily throughout 7th through 12th grade, their latest version of it doesn't work on our computers anymore. And so in order to, in fact, we're running a year behind. We can run 1 year behind on software. And so we've done it this year, knowing that we need to update for next year. Now, the Gateway program does not have a university component to it. So they don't need to have the newest and greatest software. They can run older software on older computers as long as they're getting the same standard. But at the high school level, in order for these students to get college credit, even as freshmen, they've got to be using the newest software. That's where that comes in. So.
And they try to do a good job, like I know at the elementary level, there's probably about 12 to 15 different applications that need to get put on the iPad. They're all the free versions. So the program makes sure that they, are taking technology components, so it's easy for a district to implement it. So, we wouldn't be looking at saying we need $50,000 because we need all these apps put on all these single, iPads. They're the free versions, and so, really it's just the time that it would take, the technology department to load them up. So in that way, like I had said, I think we're already in a good position with the technology that we have.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is termination of non-renewals. It is the recommendation of the superintendent to terminate and non-renew the following probationary teachers. Bill Burning, a .5 FTE deaf and hard of hearing teacher. Jennifer Brinkman, 1.0 FTE EBD special education teacher at Helen Baker. Don Tietzel, 1.0 EBD special education teacher at Lakeside. It is necessary for the board to adopt a resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of each of the teachers' contracts. The complete individual resolutions will not be included for each teacher here, but a sample resolution is included. The individual letters have been prepared and will be here this evening after the board gives its approval. So we'll do each of these individually. Do we have a motion?
I so move.
Motion by Ann, need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Kevin. To terminate non-renew Bill Burning at the end of the 2015 school year. Discussion? Hearing none, Ann will take roll call vote.
Please indicate for or against. Kevin?
For.
Jason is not here. Jamie? For. Donna? Clark?
For.
And for.
Okay, we need another motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kevin, do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ann to terminate non-renew Jennifer Brinkman at the end of the 2015-2016 school year. Ann, please take roll call vote.
Kevin?
For.
Jamie?
For.
Donna? For. Clark?
For.
And for.
And we need another motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kevin, do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ann to terminate non-renewal Don Tietzel at the end of the 2015-2016 school year.
Kevin?
For.
Jamie? For. Donna? For. Clark?
For.
And for.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item G, second reading of policies. The following policies received the first reading at the March 14th board meeting. It is the recommendation of the policy committee consisting of Directors Von Berg and Twist and the superintendent of schools to adopt these policies. I read those policies in their entirety at our prior meeting, so I won't go through them again. We have a motion. Motion by Donna, need a second.
Second.
Seconded by Ann to adopt the policies listed above. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item H, resolution to accept donations. This is a recommendation of Superintendent Sanju to adopt the resolution to accept donations. We have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Kevin, do we have a second? Seconded by Donna to adopt the resolution to accept donations. Discussion?
I just wanted to point out, that bottom one that you see listed was a grant. I couldn't remember if Mr. Sparby had given you that information in the past with one of his reports, but Mrs. Haddad had written a grant to the Minnesota Agriculture Education Leadership Council and received a $13,000 grant, and it was all for equipment for her classroom. So big kudos to her for taking the time to write that grant and receive that. So she had new tables built by a local contractor. They're kind of like a lab table for her, and then purchased the stools to go along with it. So a big improvement for her classroom in that area. So I just wanted to point that out. You normally don't see those on your donation list, but we wanted to acknowledge the work that she did in writing the grant and improving her classroom.
Okay, we have a motion.
Got a motion by Kevin, seconded by Donna. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item I, there's no miscellaneous at this time. Does anybody have anything?
Yeah, just very quickly, I think that we should acknowledge Mrs. Haddad. She had received an award that was mentioned in the Chronicle last week. Very nice article that was in the Chronicle covering that. And I think that it's important that we as a district and as a board acknowledge the wonderful work that each of our teachers and all staff members do here at GSL. And I think that that's a great recognition that she was given, and I think we should acknowledge that.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Anybody else? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Jamie, need a second?
Second.
Second by Kevin to adjourn at 8:20 PM. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.